Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great out there. I wanted to create something that allows me to kind of talk about one of the things that I'm truly passionate about. And if you know me, you know I love my cruises and I love Norwegian Cruise Line. And I have some major cruise fever going on. I can't wait until we have an opportunity to return to sailing because it truly is just just an awesome way to have a great vacation, a great way to have fun, a great way to see the world, a great way to relax, a great way to be entertained. There's just so much about it that I truly love. So I thought to myself, well, why don't I create a format where I can talk about it and I can talk to other people who are truly passionate about it as well. So for this first edition of what I'm calling Wrestling with Cruises, I thought I'd bring on a person that I had the pleasure of meeting on the Norwegian Encore inaugural sailing last year. We got invited by Norwegian to attend the basically the debut of the ship. And what an incredible opportunity. What a great experience that was. And I got to meet this individual, and I thought I was excited and passionate about cruising. This guy has me completely beat in so many different areas. So allow me to introduce you to him. I'm going to bring him on screen here. His name is Robbie O'Malley. And hey, Robbie, how are you? I'm doing good, doing good. So listen, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. So just bear with me 1 second while I adjust the audio here. Let's see here. That's the beauty of live streaming. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So, I know what's going on here. It would help, Robbie, if I unmuted your microphone. So bear with me 1 second. It seems like you're muted here. I've just got to figure it out. This is a brand new program, folks. Stuff like this is going to happen. Oh, Robbie, I accidentally got rid of you there, but I'm going to work on this.
I think I just got it. Can you hear me?
Hey, there we go. All right.
Oh, perfect.
I'm sorry about that.
I just saw the little icon and thought I'd give it a shot.
How have you been?
All good, all good. You know, hanging in there with just about everyone else.
I know. So listen, obviously I follow you on social media, and I feel your disappointment each and every time I see where you have to say, oh man, well, I should have been sailing here. I should have been sailing there.
Oh my gosh, it is
It's got to be really frustrating, right?
Oh yeah, it is brutal.
So how many sailings have you had canceled on you since I guess this whole pandemic kind of started?
So from March 13th, and I remember that date very clearly. How can I forget? March 13th is when the cruise industry basically went dark. And from then till now, I have had 9 sailings canceled.
Oh my gosh, 9 sailings. What was the sailing you were looking forward to the most?
So after seeing the Encore back in November, I know you know how beautiful that ship is.
No doubt, yeah.
I had a cruise on the Encore booked for May, which I was extremely looking forward to.
Where was it going to go?
It was actually going to Bermuda, which happens to be one of my favorite places on Earth.
Same here. You can't go wrong with Bermuda, right? It's so awesome. You get
absolutely.
2 days at sea, right? Yeah, 2 days at sea, 3 days, if it's a 7-day, 3 days on land, and then a day and a half back, something like that?
Exactly, and 1 coming back.
Yeah, it's so amazing. So I can't say enough good things about Bermuda. But let's talk about some questions that I had here for you, because obviously I know that you're extremely passionate about cruising. And actually, before we get into the question, I want to find out, when did you start cruising, and when did this passion of yours for cruising kind of begin?
So I always say that I've been cruising basically since before I was born. And my parents have been cruising for many years, like since they were kids. And obviously, as tradition goes, they carried on the passion to me. And I started cruising when I was just about 5 or 6 years old in about 2003, 2004.
Wow. And how many cruises have you been on? Do you have any idea, or have you lost track?
So just Norwegian alone, I have been on 54 Norwegian cruises.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And there's a few other in there with other cruise lines, which I can't say anything bad about, but I think I found my love with Norwegian.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you as well. You know, I've tried some of the other cruise lines, and I love NCL.
Oh
A
yeah.
friend of mine told me about it back in 2007. He was the CEO of Lucha Libre USA, which is a pro wrestling company that I was working with at the time. And he was about to go on a family cruise, and he kept saying how much he loved it and Norwegian was great. And I was always interested in cruising because you hear all these great stories, but I never really kind of just did it. And finally, I just booked my first 3-day cruise to Bermuda from Miami, and I was hooked. After that, immediately I booked a 7-day to Bermuda on the Star. So I think once you try it and you see the fun experience and how great Norwegian treats you, that it's hard not to want to keep coming back, right?
Oh, I completely agree. And I have friends here who always say that they are kind of hesitant to go. They've never been on the ocean for more than, a few hours on, a family boat. And I feel like a shorter cruise would be good intro for them. You need to get used to it. But I think after a while, I think everyone could learn to love a cruise.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think a lot of people have this fear of like, oh, I'm claustrophobic, or, I can't be stuck on a ship, I'll freak out.
Right.
That's not the case initially. And I know that because that was me initially when I went on. That's why I did the 3-day. I figure, well, 3 days, good amount of time. I'll be back home before I know it. And if I don't like it, well, I can deal with it. But it's great. It's just, there's so much fun to be had on the ship, and we're going to talk about that. Absolutely. But then there's just something so amazing to just being in the open water and just the relaxation that it brings, right?
I've always said that I can go on a cruise and not participate in one activity. As long as I'm on the ocean, I am more than content.
Yeah, and that's the other thing really that I love about NCL, the fact that you can be as busy as you want to be, or if you just want to relax and do absolutely nothing, you can do that. And that's why I love the whole freestyle cruising concept.
Exactly.
It just makes so much sense. It's your vacation. Why wouldn't you want to make it your own, right?
100%. That is the absolute beauty of freestyle cruising.
All right. Well, talking about NCL, I really want to know, and I'm going to throw up a question here for you. What's your favorite cruise ship?
So if you follow me on social media, I'm sure it is pretty evident that the Norwegian Escape, is my favorite ship. Actually, out of the 54 cruises that I've been on with Norwegian, 23 54 have been on just the Escape. So
just the Escape. Why the Escape?
So many people have asked me questions on why the Escape is my favorite, and there's really no set reason other than, and I'm sure you know this, Alex, the crew is by far one of the best parts of cruising.
There's no doubt. They really can make your vacation. And another reason why I personally love NCL so much is that every time I get on the ship, everyone is just so happy, so friendly. You feel like you're part of the family immediately. It's every time you go back, doesn't it feel like you're going home? That's how I kind of tell people.
It's exactly how I describe it. It's going home.
Awesome. Well, let's see if I can do this. I have a picture here that I'm sure you'll appreciate. Let me see if I can share it. There we go. There she is. Your favorite ship, the Escape.
Oh, for sure. You can't beat that ship.
I do love the Escape, and it's funny because for a while Norwegian kept coming out with a new ship pretty much every year, right? Yeah. So first it was the Breakaway, and then a little bit later, about a year or two later, I think about a year later, we got the Getaway.
The Getaway.
And then we got the Escape. And I felt like every time that they came out with the new ship, they would just improve upon the previous ship and find new ways to make it fresh, exciting.
Better.
Right? Yeah, and you're right. Once you got to the Escape, you're like, oh my gosh, how can this get better? And then for me, once I saw the Bliss, the Joy, and now the Encore, I'm just blown away by the stuff that Norwegian can do, the experiences, all the things that you can do on the ship.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I love the Escape, but I think for me personally, the Encore and everything, probably, you know what, it's probably a toss-up between the Bliss and the Encore.
Yeah.
They're very similar. The decor is just absolutely top-notch.
I agree.
But it's so much fun. You really can't go wrong either way. So,
yeah.
All right. So now moving on to food, because I'm a foodie. I absolutely love obviously showing food on Instagram, and it's just so much fun. But I love the restaurants on Norwegian. Like I say, when someone asks me what's your favorite restaurant, or when I'm talking to someone about my favorite restaurant, I have to mention Cagney's as one of my
yeah.
all-time favorite restaurants, not just on a cruise ship, but in general. So I'm curious to hear, what are some of your favorite restaurants, or what is maybe your favorite meal on the ship?
Yeah, so like you say, Cagney's is a Norwegian Cruise Line staple. You have to go there at least once on your Norwegian Cruise Line cruise. And I always make it a tradition to go to Cagney's on the first night. But surprisingly, that's not my favorite restaurant. And my
Okay.
favorite restaurant happens to be Le Bistro, which is the French restaurant. And
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not very adventurous with food. I am very...
Me too. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, so I'm not very into the different kinds of food that may be on the menu. But I have found my equal medium at Le Bistro with the onion soup and the beef tenderloin, and that comes with potatoes on the side. And for dessert, you can't beat Le Bistro's profiteroles. And you might be asking what they are.
I'm with you.
They are puff pastry with ice cream inside of them. And if that doesn't sound amazing, I don't know what does.
Yeah, you don't have a pulse if that doesn't sound amazing, because it really is. I'm with you 110%. I look forward to going to Le Bistro each and every time to have the profiteroles. And it took me, I don't know, at least a year and a half to learn how to pronounce them properly.
Yeah.
So I love the, I'm not very adventurous in terms of food either, but I love the filet de boeuf. Is that what it is over at it's fantastic. It's just, it's like a filet, right?
Oh yeah. It's just yeah, exactly. That's it.
Well, this I think is actually, this is my favorite meal at Cagney's. This is the filet mignon, but it's very similar, and that's probably why I like it so much. Yeah, so my favorite is Cagney's, just because, well, man, it's so tough to say. It's always been Cagney's, and maybe I'll keep it at Cagney's just for the sake of the fact that, you know, it's been my favorite forever. But man, Los Lobos, so good. What do you think about the new Mexican restaurant on the NCL ships?
You know, I really love Los Lobos, and that's the one thing that the Escape doesn't have yet. And I'm sure they're planning on putting it there at some point because it is just so popular. But you can't go wrong with Los Lobos either. It's a fun environment and good food.
It's fantastic food. And let me tell you, I love guacamole. It's probably one of my all-time favorite. I don't know what you would call it. Is it a dip? Is it
like a snack?
A condiment?
Yeah, just like a little light dip. I would call it a dip. I can't hear you, Alex. I'm not too sure if you can hear me. I'm not too sure if the stream went down.
Okay, Robbie, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no,
we got let's see here. All right, apparently there's oh, you know what it was? It's the guacamole. I guess the guacamole is so good that it's going to get rid of these. We're almost back up. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Listen, this is live. This is what happens. Things are going to happen. You got to roll with it.
Oh, yeah.
So we were talking about favorite food, and now let's move on from there to talk about your favorite itinerary, because listen, the ships are great, and sometimes you just go and take a cruise just for the ship experience, And then other times you take it for the itinerary. So what are some of your favorite itineraries? I know you already talked about Bermuda. What else is something that really excites you?
Yeah, so Bermuda's my favorite. There's so much to do right at the port, and you're there for 3 days, and it's honestly just the perfect kind of combination between a land and a cruise vacation. But quite honestly, one of my favorite itineraries is the Eastern Caribbean, and I know many have gone there on cruises. It's probably one of the more generic vacations or cruise vacations that Norwegian offers. And honestly, you can't beat it. Every time you go, you can see something new. You go to the beautiful islands of the Caribbean, and there's so many. You can go to a new beach every time you're there, and
Yep.
it's always warm, and it's just a perfect combination between Florida, cruising, island time.
And in terms of your favorite ports are?
So my top favorite port would probably be St. Thomas. There's so much to do in St.
Okay.
Thomas. It's actually a United States Virgin Island, and St. John's is actually right next door, so it's easy enough to take a ferry when you're there for a port of call. They have Trunk Bay, and they have a beautiful underwater snorkeling spot on St.
Yep.
John's Island, Trunk Bay. They have all different kinds of activities, and there's the sky ride to Paradise Point, and there's just so much you could do in one day that you're going to have to go back.
Yeah, for sure. And that's part of what I love about cruising too. The fact that I always say taking a cruise vacation is like getting an appetizer of all these amazing ports and great different places, right? You go, you spend, pretty much a day there, and then you see whether you like it, and then you can always go back.
Right. And that's what I've always said. It's like a floating city that follows you around. You don't have to change hotels. You don't have to fly to new islands. The ship just takes you there. You keep all your stuff in one spot, and you get to see, instead of picking one island to go to for a week, you can see 4 islands in a week.
Exactly. Now, speaking of fun things to do on the ship, obviously there's a ton of great things to do. So that leads me into, what's your favorite show, maybe that you've seen on NCL, or I guess.
Yeah. So
maybe favorite shows, because it might be hard. Oh, lost you there for a second. So what is your favorite show or shows?
So I remember sitting next to you during the shows on the Encore, and I can only remember tapping you every time at saying how amazing the show was. And then after the show, we couldn't stop talking about it. And I'm sure you could probably agree that Choir of Man is one of my all-time favorite shows that I've ever seen. And I've seen it both on land when they were doing their United States tour, and I've seen it on the Escape, and then with you on the Encore, which I think was a complete level above the usual on the Encore.
Yeah, for sure. I remember seeing it first was it the Illusionarium that they had it on one of the other ships, or the Supper Club? I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, when they first joined the ship, it was in the Supper Club. It was a much more, I guess, cozier venue. It's much more up close with the performers. And it also makes it fun to have it in the cozier venue, because there's many audience participation points in the show that you get to go up on stage, and they have the open bar before the show. So it makes it nice and comfortable to be in that small environment.
Yeah, it was great because there was so much audience interaction to it that obviously I didn't know what to expect. And when you hear a show like Choir of Man, you think it's going to be like just a choir, but it's completely not like that. The music is current, it's hip, it's cool, it's done in such a fun way. And then, as you mentioned, on the Encore, they just took it to a whole other level since it was on the main stage. And man, what a great show. I actually downloaded the album, I think, right there on the ship immediately afterwards, because it was it's so good.
Oh yeah, I listen to it every time I get in the car. That's the album I play, because it's just the perfect music to drive around on.
Well, fantastic. Well, now let's talk about, obviously you've cruised a lot. So let's talk about some cruise tips for those who maybe are thinking about taking a cruise, or who've never taken a cruise, or maybe just some tips that, as a professional cruiser, because I think that's the level that you're currently at. You're like a pro cruiser. that maybe that you can share with people and maybe give some advice about how to maybe perhaps enjoy their experience even more?
Yeah, so the one big thing that I always recommend to anyone who asks me is to, with Norwegian, you have the opportunity to book your dining and shows online before you cruise. And on board, most people do, but some don't. And if you don't, you can find yourself in a pretty long line trying to get reservations for dining in any of the specialty restaurants. Although freestyle, you do have to make reservations for the specialty
Yep.
restaurants. And booking your shows online can definitely be a big help because they do sell out on board.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think a lot of people don't know that going in, and then you get on the ship and you realize, oh man, I can never eat at Cagney's because it's completely, kind of booked. However, I'll give you a tip, I guess. If that does happen, you can always go to the restaurant reservation, I guess, person. You can find them right there on the main deck where you'd find the basically the concierge area, right? They have a nice little station there. And then you can say, hey, I'd like to book Cagney's, what's available. And there are a lot of people who change their times, or sometimes the times aren't available online, but they are available when you get on the ship. So there's always ways that you can, if something is booked, work to get it booked. And they really try to accommodate you as best as possible. So.
Oh yeah, they're very accommodating. If they say that they might be able to get you in, you can almost guarantee that you can get in.
Yeah, and another tip I think we should talk about is sometimes the entertainment you also have to book ahead of time in terms of like the main shows.
Exactly.
So there's a couple ways you can do that. You can do that on the screens on the ship, which I think is really cool. You can do that by, again, going to the atrium and talking to someone there.
Right.
And you can even do it in the app, right? Depending on the ship that you're on, you can open up the app and make a reservation that way. So a bunch of different ways that you can make reses.
I think the whole fleet of ships are actually on the app now, which is pretty good, and it's very user friendly, just like the website.
Fantastic. So speaking of kind of the cruise industry, obviously everything's kind of at a halt and we're all just chomping at the bit to get back to sailing and cruising and making our plans so that we can once again get on board. Norwegian has rolled something out, which I wanted to kind of chat about. And I have the notes here. So it's called the Safe and Sound, or Sail Safe. And this is what Norwegian has planned for how to make the return to cruising kind of make us feel safer as we return to cruising. So enhanced screening protocols, all new air filtration system, increased sanitation measures, responsible social distancing, enhanced medical resources, and extended ship-to-shore safety. So I don't know about you, Robbie, but from sailing at other cruises or cruise lines, I always thought that Norwegian did a fantastic job of making sure that we're safe in terms of sanitizing. Obviously, every time we go to a restaurant, there's hand sanitizer available. When you go to the buffet, you of course have someone spraying your hands, making sure that your hands are sanitized. So what do you think about all these, I guess, new protocols that NCL is implementing to keep us safe?
So like you said, I think NCL, even before this whole pandemic hit, I feel that Norwegian was always one of the safer crews. I've always felt so clean and safe when on board Norwegian. You go down the steps, they're wiping the handrails right behind you. And I just feel like you always see someone around the ship cleaning, whether it be public areas, your cabins are always kept clean. There's always someone there keeping it nice and tidy. And I feel that these extra protocols that they're putting in place definitely give everyone the peace of mind that they need to be able to go and cruise again.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes me feel even better knowing that NCL is kind of ahead of the curve and letting us know, hey, here's what we're going to do to make sure to keep you safe. I believe that they've already mentioned that the ships will not be at full capacity when they start sailing. So that's going to be kind of interesting. And for us, that's kind of exciting, right?
Yeah,
because less people I don't know, it gives us more opportunities to book Cagney's and restaurants without having any issues. So that should be pretty interesting. And again, I like that. It makes me feel, safer knowing that, when I start sailing again, that NCL is really kind of watching out for us and making sure that everyone on the ship is safe, and that we're constantly being monitored to make sure that, if someone were sick, that, that gets addressed right away.
Right. And looking at the brighter side of things, when this all passes, cruising may be one of the new safest vacations, even though it was already safe before. But now with these extra protocols, you can almost guarantee that these will be some of the best places to vacation once you are able to again.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, knowing Norwegian, they're doing their best to make sure that, they have the safest ships at sea. So that being said, what is your next cruise that you currently have booked?
So I'm holding out hope that August 1st, the current startup date for Norwegian, will hold through. And I actually have a cruise on August 2nd that I just recently rebooked from May with my amazingly generous future cruise credit that Norwegian gave us for the canceled sailings.
That's great.
And it's going to Bermuda on the Encore on August 2nd. So I'm hoping that will hold true.
Fantastic. Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. That's really exciting. I'm planning to go to Bermuda in October on the Encore. So I'm really excited to do that as well. I mean, the Encore is such a great ship, and obviously Bermuda is so awesome. So, it's a winning combination.
And 2 days wasn't long enough on the Encore, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. So we got invited, as I mentioned, from NCL to the one of the inaugural sailings, which was just 2 days, and the ship was docked, and we got a chance to really experience everything on the ship, and it was out of this world. But you're right, 2 days is almost like torture, because it's just you want to do so much, right? Like it was like we were cramming everything in, doing so much to be able to truly enjoy the ship. But it just makes me want to jump on the ship as quickly as possible and enjoy it. And looking forward to that. And looking forward to hearing more about your adventures at sea, Robbie. So I'm going to throw up one more time here the banner that where folks can follow you, because obviously you're posting cruise stuff every day, which is fantastic, and kind of keeping us posted as to what's going on as well. And Norwegian does a great job as well on their website, also on all of their social medias as well, just making sure that everyone knows what's going on in terms of when they'll be returning to sailing, and when we can expect to be back on an NCL ship.
Absolutely. So just trying to keep the spirits high till then.
Absolutely. That's all we can do. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I saw someone on social media post that they took a virtual cruise because their cruise got canceled. Mm-hmm. So they, on their big screen TV, put a video of the water.
I did see that. That was hilarious. Oh yeah.
That was great. People always do such a great job of just kind of doing the best with the situation. So they do that. And also Norwegian has been posting on their social as well, different recipes, right? Didn't you make something recently, or someone that I know made something recently?
Yes,
that
Norwegian posted? It was a recipe that I had gotten on board the ships, because I absolutely love Cagney's potatoes au gratin. It's basically just potatoes and cheese kind of layered. And I made that with the Norwegian recipe, and I felt like I was on board. It was really good.
There you go. It's the next best thing to being on board, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if I could only learn how to make the caramel cheesecake that they have at Cagney's, I would be pretty happy.
Oh yeah.
Great. Well, listen, Robbie, I want to thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. This is great to at least be able to talk about cruising, and looking forward to obviously getting back on the ship, and hopefully we can run into each other again on a sailing really soon.
Absolutely. We need to plan something for sure.
Sounds like a plan. All right, Robbie, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch you next time on Wrestling with Cruises.